Dewey. I'm an associate professor in the computer science department over at CSUN, and that's in the College of Engineering and Computer Science. So I've been teaching at CSUN I've been teaching since fall 2017, but I've been teaching, I think in total about 12 years at this point. I had some teaching experience when I was at UCSB for grad school as well. So I've dabbled in a whole bunch of stuff, ranging from automated testing to computer science education, plagiarism detection, program analysis, all sorts of stuff. But the biggest passion that I have at the moment is in programming languages, specifically programming language design and implementation. The sort of overarching thing with my research and what's sort of tied everything together, because I have been, kind of all over the place, is I'm fascinated by failure. Like, why do systems fail? How do they fail? When I say the word system, that can mean software system. I mean, that's my own background, but this can also mean hardware. This can mean like the interaction of how people work with these sorts of systems, and maybe just people themselves. We have all sorts of human systems that we're talking about. And so like me with doing research on automated testing has been, well, how can we find problems in systems before users do? And with the current work that I'm doing with programming languages, with ARCs, we're trying to build a language that from the ground up makes it so your system's more reliable. It's less liable to have problems in the first place. The biggest overarching thing I think that I always have to remind myself is that research is a learning process. If somebody already had the information, it wouldn't be research. And so the idea that you're constantly learning, you're never going to be totally at home with everything that you're doing, you have to get used to that. Related to that, something else that I've learned more recently with my experiences with ARCs is that I can't do everything alone. I'm an expert in a very small number of fields, or subjects really, and then if I need somebody who has expertise in something else, it's not really feasible for me to pick that up. It's, okay, I need to go out of my box, I need to collaborate, I need to talk to other people, I need to find an expert in whatever area it is. I even made the mistake of thinking that, oh yeah, over the course of the summer, I can become an expert on machine learning. No, that's not really realistic. But what is realistic is you find somebody who is an expert on machine learning and bring them on, and that's a much shorter time frame, and you're gonna get a better result too. Oh yeah, students keep graduating. That's the other problem, and it's a good problem to have, is that you work with students and then they do this pesky graduation thing where they get jobs and they have lives and they're not students forever, which is great for them, but it's bittersweet, because then they're not on the project anymore. And so it's a constant cycle of bringing new people on board. And I mean, that's a big reason why I'm even here in the first place, is I want to help students. I want students to be able to achieve their maximum potential, and I'm here to try to facilitate that. For me, I really enjoy watching people learn. Like the idea that oh, something because I taught you that to me is very heartwarming and just makes me happy. I know when I'm in the classroom, I get energetic whenever I'm teaching something, particularly something that's close to my own interests, and just get really excited about it. And then I think the biggest thing is seeing students be able to apply what I've taught them. So for example, I have multiple students who have gone on, they've gotten jobs in what they wanted, they're doing careers in things that are actually connected to what they were doing in my lab. That gives me so much joy, because it's cool, you were able to take the knowledge that you learned while you were working with me and now apply that in the field and actually use this knowledge for your own benefit. And that to me is that's why I'm here. Growing up, I was the little kid that was always asking the annoying questions, and my father was usually the one that was answering them. And he always had long, detailed answers. And was super patient with me. And so it's what's this? What's this? How's that work? What's that happen? And he was a mechanical engineer, still is. And so was able to field a lot of these sort of questions. And then one day for his job, he gets a brand new shiny IBM 386 that it was running MS-DOS. By today's standard, it's an absolute joke. But back then, that was bleeding edge technology. And I remember asking, how does that thing work? And he just goes, no idea. And that was like so jarring for me after having like so many explanations to me that I'm like, I want to learn more about that thing because I want to be able to understand that. And I feel like that bug just kind of like set in the back of my head and just like this constant, like, I want to scratch that. And at this point, I still don't know how computers work, but I know more about that than I did when I first started. So I'll call that improvement. And yeah, that was like probably the real initial impetus into it. Yeah, if it wasn't for that one moment, like, what if his company hadn't gotten him a computer? Like, would I be sitting here right now? And I'm like, I don't know. So I'd mentioned that we're doing work with programming languages. We are specifically developing a programming language for use by systems and software engineers over at JPL. This project has encompassed, so this is now a multi-year project. We've talked with dozens of people at JPL to get feedback on this. We're working closely with a couple people at JPL who are like very close in the loop with the project. And I've gotten a lot of students on this at this point. Dozens and dozens, I've lost count. One number I did look up before this is just to give you a sense of how many students have been involved with this. Last year, I had 22 students that were trying to join the lab. That wasn't in addition to what I had. That was 22 new students who wanted to join the project. So even though it's one, it's a big one. That NASA JPL name, that brings so much clout with it. My parents have no idea what I do. I have tried on occasion to explain it, and then after about 20 minutes, I'm like, that was a mistake. I should not have done that. But if I say, oh yeah, we're doing stuff with NASA, okay, they understand what that means. They understand how that's important. And so suddenly they're totally on board and can listen to me for another 20 minutes, drag on, and then, mention the name again and go with me for another 20 minutes. So I think that appeal is just really helps with recruitment in terms of like getting students interested in it. In terms of meeting career goals, probably the most direct thing is I've gotten publications out of this. I've gotten grants to help support the research itself. For me, that has helped to get me to the point where I have got promoted early. So that all fit in well. But in a more broad way, it matches up very well with just my own interests. So I've really said a lot about wanting to help students, and ARCS has a lot of students in it. There's a lot of students that go in and out of ARCS, and so it's a really big source of basically raw talent and raw material to help shape and grow and kind of build something bigger. Something else that has been immensely helpful with ARCS is just the network of people that are involved. So yeah, there's a ton of students, there's a ton of faculty too. There's a ton of people over at JPL, NASA, it feels like everywhere. And so what this means is that, oh yeah, if I do need help on something, if I do need an expert in an area that I am not the expert, then either somebody in this network or somebody in this network knows somebody that I can talk to. And it feels like for every single area that's come up, no matter how big or small, there's somebody there in this network that can help serve those requests. And that's been incredibly helpful. I received lots of mentorship as well, which has also been helpful just in terms of career and life, in terms of figuring out like what my priorities are, what they should be, how to set things up. It's just been very beneficial. I do really enjoy collaborating with all the JPLers and just all the people in this sort of network. It was initially terrifying to do this because you're working with people that are at the top of their field. I know I got paired with a JPLer, Klaus Havlin. And so he is an expert on runtime verification, which exactly what that is doesn't matter too much for this, but basically it's a subject area that is very relevant to us. And at one point, I go and Google runtime verification because I know what runtime means and I know what verification means, but I'd never actually seen those two words together before, so that was new for me. And of course, Wikipedia article comes up. I'm like, okay, let me read the Wikipedia article on runtime verification. Okay, co-founded by Klaus Havlin. Okay, that's the person that I'm talking to. Yeah, that's not a little intimidating at all. And so, there's the like, oh, cool. I'm asking you really dumb questions about something that you literally helped found. But at the same time, it was like, oh no, this is totally fine. This is chill. Which surprised me. And then at some point I realized it's like, oh yeah, no, their goals are totally aligned with my own goals of like, they want to help students and they want to solve problems. And so even though on some level there is a huge barrier between us, we're coming together as equals, which felt really cool. And it also felt cool of like, oh yeah, there's stuff that I can bring to the table as well. It's not just I'm taking. And I realize I'm describing a successful collaboration, and that's exactly what it is. My pre-ARCS research world looks nothing like my post-ARCS research world. It's a total night and day difference. Pre-ARCS, I had, in fact, ironically, I said, oh yeah, I only have one project, but it's a big one. The old model that I used was the complete opposite. At one point I counted, and I literally had 21 projects I was involved in, most of which had nobody on them except for me. And you can imagine that if you're trying to split your time between 21 separate things, there's not actually a lot that's going on, but boy, are you constantly busy. And so I did occasionally have students that would be on a project. It would be like there's one student on this random project, one student on this other random project. And these two projects have nothing in common at all. So what would happen is students would be totally siloed from each other. I would be the only person that they were talking to. On two separate occasions, students independently learned that like someone else in their class was working with me. So it's like they don't even know that they exist on the project. So this meant that you have really poor morale, you have no sense of community, and this often translated to not a lot gets done, and usually you have very poor retention with this as well. And so a student would be with me maybe a semester, often less than a semester, and then that's kind of the end of the project. And so not a lot happened. In contrast, the model that I've taken with ARCS is, okay, we're going to foster this sort of collaborative environment. We're all gonna come together. We're not gonna do this sort of siloing anymore. We're actually going to be, having team meetings and like doing those frequently, not just once every 6 months or something like that. And so everyone's coming together, and this ends up being a self-sustaining cycle where now students are getting more deeply involved because they want to be on there longer. And so now they are spending more time on the project. With that, they spend more time, and not just, in a semester, but like multiple semesters. So they become sort of domain experts. Now the students themselves can help with mentoring and leadership of the project itself. And so this is great for me personally, because this means there's less work that I have to do in terms of day-to-day project management, which means, okay, now you can work on bigger picture things like trying to get grant money to help sustain the project, or trying to publish it to get the word out there about what we're doing to a broader audience. This also means that the students themselves benefit more. So in addition to the sort of technical skills, which are the obvious on paper sort of thing, they're also gaining those same sort of leadership and mentor skills, those sort of soft skills, which are incredibly important, but in my field, we often forget about for whatever reason, but they're absolutely vital for a project to actually, be sustainable. And so it's really just a total night and day difference. from how I used to do things. Yeah, so I think I talked about this a little bit already, but in terms of achievements through ARCS, so the most obvious thing that just pop up on paper is, oh yeah, we got some publications, we got some grants, I got early promotion, cool. But to me, the biggest thing is really just, again, the students. Most of the students who've gone through my lab have ended up either going to the grad schools that they wanted to or are working exactly where they wanted to. I've had multiple students who end up working at JPL. I've had tons of students who have their internships with JPL extended. I have students who've worked in other areas in aerospace. And so really, it's just students have been very successful. Like having this experience on their resume has helped them dramatically when it comes to career building and really making that first step, which is so crucial to actually being successful in the field. And their success is my success. Overall, ARCS has been truly a phenomenal experience for me. It has really helped with my own career development. It's helped with career development of other faculty, particularly students coming through and like helping to propel them in terms of what they want to do. And it has helped just a lot of people. It has brought a ton of people together. I mean, I've worked with people in arts and humanities, which before my experiences here, I would have thought it's just like, how? But now I'm like, oh yeah, no, everybody needs to come to the table. Everybody has something that they have to contribute. And the amount that I've learned is just phenomenal and just really helped crack me out of my cage. And I didn't even realize I was in one before, but now I do. And so I don't know, I can't say enough good things about it.
Well, Spot's excited, and so are we. Hope you enjoyed that video. Check out our social media here with links in the description. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Thank you.